Well, it's deja vu all over again because MAGA cultist Marjorie Taylor Greene has officially filed a motion to remove Mike Johnson from the speakership because he allowed Democrats to protect the American people from a painful and unnecessary government shutdown. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at in this video, but I need to provide some crucial context. As I mentioned in a video yesterday, amidst all the chaos going on in the United States because of Republicans, we are once again on the precipice of another painful and unnecessary government shutdown, which, by the way, is 100% the fault of House Republicans because they reneged on a deal they made with President Biden back in May of 2023 during the debt ceiling negotiations, in which they agreed to raise the debt ceiling that they helped accrue in exchange for certain budgetary constrictions. President Biden held up his end, Republicans reneged on theirs, and it triggered this entire chain of events in which we've had one stopgap measure after another to kick the can down the road and avoid a government shutdown. Again, 100% the fault of House Republicans. This is the chaos which cost Kevin McCarthy his speakership, and now it looks like it may very well happen again for Mike Johnson. So, as I mentioned in a video yesterday, congressional leadership, so Democratic leader Chuck Schumer in the Senate, Mike Johnson, Republican Speaker of the House, and President Biden have basically worked out a 6-month stopgap measure for $1.2 trillion, okay? And MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives are really upset about this. But earlier today, it passed. Mike Johnson allowed the vote to be brought to the floor, and it passed 286 to 134. And the majority of those 286 came from Democrats. So once again, as was the case under Kevin McCarthy, it was Democrats who have acted to protect the American people from the consequences of a federal government shutdown. Now, this bill has to go to the United States Senate, where all 100 members of the Senate have to approve it, which is a tall order, but many political commentators are confident it'll happen. And then President Biden has to sign it into law. And all this has to happen before Saturday. I think it is literally 12:01 a.m. Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, the government shuts down. So that's the context for all of this. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not happy. And so we're going to play several clips which explain her rationale, starting with this first one in which she makes the announcement.
This bill was basically a dream and a wish list for Democrats and for the White House. It was completely led by Chuck Schumer, not our Republican Speaker of the House, not our conference, and we weren't even allowed to put amendments to the floor to have a chance to make changes to the bill. I filed the motion to vacate today, but it's more of a warning and a pink slip. I respect our conference. I paid all my dues to my conference. I'm a member in good standing, and I do not wish to inflict pain on our conference and to throw the House in chaos. But this is basically a warning, and it's time for us to go through the process, take our time, and find a new Speaker of the House that will stand with Republicans and our Republican majority instead of standing with the Democrats.
If it's a warning, does that mean that you're not going to go through and force this vote?
No, I will. There's
nothing that can convince you to back off.
There's not a time limit on this. It doesn't have to be forced and throw the House into chaos. I don't want to put any of our members in a difficult place like we were for 3.5 weeks. We're going to continue our committee work. We're going to continue our investigations. There's a lot of good investigations going that have to be able to proceed, and the American people deserve that. But I'm not saying that it won't happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in a month or who knows when.
There you go. So what she's saying is she has officially filed the motion to vacate, that's putting Mike Johnson on notice. And again, we're going to play some other clips in which she clarifies the full context, and then we'll unpack it together.
Would you be teaming with Democrats as well by ousting the Speaker of the House, just like Speaker Johnson did in teaming with Democrats to pass the government funding bill?
We have to find a new Speaker of the House. I'm not sure how that vote count would be, and I've heard a lot of Democrats may support him, so I'm not sure how that works out.
If they do that, don't you worry that you're basically pushing him or any new Speaker into the arms of Democrats Because, like, at a certain point...
He's already in the arms of Democrats, and it's proof in the vote count today. This was a Democrat bill. This was not a Republican bill. We weren't allowed to introduce amendments. We weren't allowed to have a say. We weren't even given the respect of the 72-hour rule to read 1,012 pages.
So you think it would be better to shut the government down then? I mean, you were up against the clock. Would it have been better to shut the government down?
It would have been better back in October when he became Speaker to have actually worked on appropriation bills, stayed with single appropriation bills, and done what all of us had set out to do.
Could you guys bring McCarthy back? Could you bring McCarthy back?
All right, a couple more clips again in which crucial context is provided.
So just to follow up on that, though, you're calling this a pink slip, a warning sign. The bottom line, you want Speaker Johnson out.
I wouldn't have filed a motion to vacate if I didn't. We need a new speaker. This is not personal against Mike Johnson. He's a very good man, and I have respect for him as a person, but he is not doing the job. The proof is in the vote count today. He passed a budget that should have never been brought to the floor, did not represent our conference, and it was passed with the Democrats and without the majority of the majority.
What happened?
So the problem is, in Mike Johnson's defense, Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't know how to govern. She doesn't understand that the math is simply not on the Republican side here. They have a razor-thin majority, a 2-seat majority in one chamber of one branch. Democrats simply have the upper hand. They control the White House. They control the Senate. So this idea that you're going to dictate terms to the Democratic Party on this is absurd. And the MAGA cult has put its own party in between this rock and a hard place where they're punished. Republicans are punished for actively keeping the government working and functional or working bipartisanly with Democrats. Now, as the bill was being brought to the floor, this is what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say. So this is her prior to her filing the official motion to vacate the chair.
The lady from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in extreme opposition to the second part of the omnibus bill. No Republican in the House of Representatives in good conscience can vote for this bill. It is a complete departure of all of our principles, especially if you call yourself pro-life. This bill funds full-term abortion. This is not a Republican bill. This is a Chuck Schumer, Democrat-controlled bill coming from the House majority that is supposed to be controlled by Republicans, but yet our majority has been completely
Members are reminded to direct their
Democrats.
remarks to the chair. Please.
Madam Speaker, it is the will of our voters, and it is the will of Republicans across the country that this bill should not be brought to the floor, that this bill will absolutely destroy our majority, and will tell every single one of our voters that this majority is a failure. This is the bill that the White House cannot wait to sign into law. This is the bill that
Lady from
You have already conveyed to your voters that your majority is a failure. Again, as we've talked about, it is the least productive iteration of Congress. You all have passed nothing of consequence. The one political initiative you've staked all your credibility and political capital on, the impeachment of President Biden, has been an abject failure from start to finish. Republicans are excellent culture warriors. They're excellent at creating, manufacturing, exacerbating, meaningless culture war issues which don't have a material impact on their constituents, but they suck objectively at governing. Democrats are far better. Democrats on their very worst day are objectively better at running the country and keeping government functional than Republicans on their very best day. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has played an active role in shaping the Republican Party that way. So again, as you saw from the clips, she's not pushing the vote. She's not pushing to bring the vote on the motion to vacate immediately, but she's filed the motion and she gets to decide when to pull the trigger on it. Now, she still has to have a majority to remove Mike Johnson from the speakership, and it's entirely possible that Democrats will protect Mike Johnson, but they should do it in exchange for concessions. They should say, hey, Mike, you want to keep your job? You want us to protect you from Marjorie Taylor Greene? Then you will give us some things. We're not just going to allow you to keep your job for nothing. You will give us things in return. You will kill this impeachment effort against President Biden. You will do this. You will do that. They should extract meaningful concessions, or they should toy with him. And perhaps they should potentially leave him to the wolves with respect to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Mike Johnson has an opportunity here, if he wants to keep the speaker's gavel, to show Democrats that despite their legitimate political policy differences, he can work with them in good faith. But he actually has to demonstrate that. I don't think the Democrats should save him for no reason. And that might be another reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene is not forcing the vote on this immediately, because perhaps she wants to see if Mike Johnson will come to her in the far right flank of the GOP and make concessions in return. And hey, please don't kick me from my job. I promise I'll do this, this, and this for you in the meantime. So it definitely puts Mike Johnson in between a rock and a hard place. And I'll be curious to see how Democrats play this hand that they've been dealt and how Mike Johnson does as well. But once again, we are seeing the dysfunction and incompetence and civil war within the GOP. And it just demonstrates again why no sane person should vote for this party in the November elections. Let me know what you think in the comments.